Hi, this is Juan, and today I'm going to talk to you about multipass rendering in Shade. If you go to View Image window, here, in case it isn't turned on by default, just click on the triangle. You'll see multipass with multipass rendering, and lots and lots of different values, parameters, and thingies that you can check and uncheck. So what is that for? Let us use a default scene, right? So here, by the way, this is the Shade Explorer, and if you didn't see that, it's in Presets, Objects, Rendering. If I expand this, maybe you'll see it like this in your machine. But anyway, here it is. There you go with the viewport preview renderer, and if you render the scene, rendering, render all, rendering. There you go. You get that. First, this is a benchmarking text. How do you turn that off? You go to Effects. Here in Burn Rendering Info, you put none. Next time you render, you won't get that. But anyway, let's see this. Why is this darker than this? Easy. You go to View, Correction. And as you can see, this is a small representation of the before image and the after image. In this file in particular, somebody has already done some gamma correction, but you can do neat stuff like put some gain. You can see here the result. You can ungamma. You can add contrast, remove contrast. Okay, but this isn't what we were going to do right now. So let's get this 1.6, gain 1, 0. Okay, we know that now. But what we want to do is use the multi-channels. So for that, we go here, here, no, here. And let's just check everything on. Everything, 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 everything. Everything, 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 everything. Everything, 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 everything. Everything, 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 everything. Okay. So now that we have done that, let's re-render. Rendering, render all. We'll wait for the render to finish. Okay, now in save, we don't just save. We use multi-layer. We use single file or split file, depending on your workflow. But I'll use single file for simplicity's sake this time. So let's pick that. And I'll just overwrite that image. GI test, no, let's put GI test multipass. Now, why do we only have these options? Because only these options can use different channels apart from the RGB channel. Trust me on this. We'll be using PSD for Photoshop, even if we don't use Photoshop, but it's a nice format and is compatible with Gimp, which is what I'll use now. So just go save. Here, as the Gimp only uses 8 bits per channel, we'll leave that to the default. We could use 16 bit, but we won't. And I told you, because Gimp doesn't use 16 bit, only 8 bits. And as I have lots of memory, I'll use this. We could use less memory, but it would take a little bit longer. So, okay, done. Now let's switch to the Gimp. We'll do a normal file, open. Next, look for our that would be G. No, that would be, let's see, G. Docs. Say 12. Multipass. GI test multipass. There you go. And see this. Over here we have a named volume, volume light, GI, reflect, refract, environment, glow, ambient, shadow, specular, diffuse, background, pre-effect, transparency, shade, see depth, then position, X, Y, normal, light, diffuse, light, specular, which, by the way, is this. You see volume, volume light, GI, reflect, refract, environment, glow, ambient, shadow, specular, blah blah blah, corresponds to this. So what is this good for? Let's make, first of all, this unnamed should be called the beauty render from shade. Now let's go turning off everything else. Dun, 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 dun. By the way, I'm not an expert in the game, so there might be an easier way to turn off all this. Oh, okay. Let's turn everything off and start with diffuse. This is what you get with no shadows in path tracing. Let's see, ray tracing. Yeah. Okay. What you get in shade with ray tracing and without GI. Let's just check that. Global illumination, no. But without reflections, refractions, etc., etc. But just like, let's do a quick render. As you can see, this looks more like this. Why is this black? Because in a pure diffuse you don't have reflections, so no reflections. If we went to the red material here in shade, let's take out the reflection, and in a diffuse channel we don't have transparency, so no transparency, no specular, no anything at all but diffuse. Right? As you can see, it's starting to look more like that. Black versus black. So what is this shiny? Actually, to make it shiny, do this. Okay. So this will only diffuse, which by the way, as you can see, it's almost pure black. You get what you're getting here. Same goes for the other materials. You only get a red shade, pun not intended, where you have actually something in the diffuse color. Let's see. The green. You see? This green is here, as is it in the scene. Okay? Now, what do we do with that? Let's add a shadow. Voila! Diffuse plus shadows make this. Now, let's add the GI, or the global illumination. Aha! Let's add the reflection. Aha! The reflection. Woohoo! Now, we don't have nothing in the environment, so as you can see, nothing happens. But with glow, everything that had glow on it would turn white, and so on with the reflections, the refractions, and everything. But what good is it? As you can see, you could use the light GI, for example, instead of the GI. Or what if we used only a bit of the light GI? No, something's not working. Ah, here it is. Nope. Well, something is going wrong. It means you're not doing something right? Multiply. No. What kind of a change? Light GI. Let's do that. We'll turn it on. Turn it on, but let's do some addition. Why? So you see, it was too downstream, which means the order of things are from bottom to top. So top is the last thing that gets added to the scene. Okay, so this looks right. But if we wanted to do just with light GI, no, just with this GI, but I don't like its blue color. Let's turn it greenish or yellowish or something. We can do that without re-rendering. Let's see, colors, color balance, or hue saturation, hue. Ta-da! I like that. Less effect, more effect. Okay. By the way, this means you're working on 8-bit. If you're very rich, get Nuke or After Effects or something, which work on 16-bit and 64-bit and floating point bit, and you won't get this for post-production. But I like it like this now. Okay. And let's see the shadows. Okay, the shadows. Let's do some brightness contrast. More contrast in the shells. You see? No need to re-render. Zero contrast, they seem like floating in space. But what about this? You see, we didn't have to re-render the scene. How about that? Now, let's do some lighter views. Let's make this more interesting looking, but maybe not so much. Something happened. We changed the order of things. This makes normal overlay. Soft light, hard light. Looks nice. Maybe if we up low. I like this. And what about the reflection? I think it's too dark. You can almost see no reflection here. So if I change this as we've been doing, brightness, contrast, just get darker. Okay, what's the problem here? If I want to change the reflection on the sphere, we'll also be changing it everywhere else we have a reflection, like in the donut. And we only want it in the sphere, so let's do a cancel and go here. Surface ID or Object ID. If you look closely, you can see here what would be the donut. Here is the light coming on the cylinder, the sphere, and the capsule. So let's go to Object ID and select by color. There you go. By the way, why did it select all the sphere? I mean all the donut? Well, we have all these colors because we had this channel selected. So even if we don't see it, it will use it. That's a nice trick. Okay. Now back to the reflection. By the way, I didn't want to select the donut. So let's go to Object ID. Here we go. Now reflection. Here. Next, colors. It's 3 curves. Aha! Look at that. Very interesting. Sort of like that. And with reflect we can do exactly the same. Curves. Ooh, pretty. Okay. What else can we do? We can do a depth blur, meaning depth of field and stuff, without having to use shades. Here we go. Without having to use this, actually. Effect. Where is depth plus. If you have shade standard, you won't get that. Okay. Back to the Gimp. How do we do that? First, let's save this. Save as GI test multi-pass PSD. No. Let's. Okay, I'm going to save that just in case. Save as. images, Gimp files, just in case. Now, the trick for the depth pass is this. You flatten all the layers that you are not using. That's why I saved, by the way. File, no. Image, flatten image, or merge visible layers, merge visible layers. Discarding layers, merge. Okay, by the way, this obviously will use much less space than the other one, but you won't be able to tweak like you normally are not able to tweak the result of a render without the multi-pass turned on. Now, here is the trick. This is the C buffer. Look. Okay, view image window. C depth or C buffer. What this means is that what is in, at least concerning shade, white is far away and black is near. Here, this must be sort of what is farthest from in the scene, so that's why this is white. And what's nearer must be around here, that's why this looks to be the darkest place in the scene. So what's this for? For many things, but what we are going to use it now, I told you, was some depth blurring. Okay, here we go. We go not in this normal tab, but this one, the channels tab. We select it, right click, and do a channel to selection. Now, there are two different ways you can apply the C depth or C buffer. So we'll be first copying this same image twice, and we'll call this C depth, and this one inverted C depth. Okay. Now for the first one, and by the way, let me do something else before that. This looks nice, but it doesn't look too contrasty, and I want it to look much more contrasty so that you can appreciate the difference. So let's, by the way, you can also do this. The brightness, contrast, and everything that you did on the normal channels, you can do it in this channel. But this goes red for some arcane reasons. Okay, color balance. I will see some curves here. Okay. As you can see in the normal version, you can't see that corner, and you can see it here. So let's use this. Okay. Maybe even some colors, brightness, contrast, 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 contrast. Okay, let's use this. Good enough. Now, what were we doing? Yes, we were, let's erase the selection, none. Okay. Now, with this clicked on, right click, and do a channel to selection. This turns out bizarre, but just following along. Okay. Now, C depth. Oh, Oops. There you go. No. This and this. Okay. No, no. Why is that red? Here. Okay. Done. Filters. Blur and reduce a Gaussian blur. Okay, let's copy another image just to explain a bit. Down. This is blurred. This is the normal image. Now we will blur it. Filters. Blur the Gaussian blur. If we blur all the image, we'll get this. But we want to do a blur depending on the distance. And for that, we use the C depth. Okay. So how do we do that? Again and again, we go to extras, channel to selection, and C depth. We do a filter. If you want to, let's re-show it. Aha! Look what's happened. It's not blurring the complete image. See, okay. Now compare it with this. See, all blurry. This, not all blurry. Look at this corner. Completely blurry, but look at the cylinder. Not blurry, blurry. Now, what would the effect be with the inverted C depth? Okay, for that, we have to invert the C depth, which, as we had it selected, let's do select invert. And let's do a filter and repeat the blur. Voila. Sort of blurry, not blurry. Blurry, sort of blurry. You see the difference? If you want to really see the difference, let's turn this and this, and the inverted C depth. Let's do a difference. You can see here there is blurring, non-blurring, blah 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 blah. By the way, black means exactly the same, and any other color means there is a difference between one image and the other. And well, I hope you learned something today. Normal image, final image 1, final image 2, like this. By the way, if you want to just save this image, file, save as, and if you choose, for example, JPEG, blah 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 blah. JPEG can't handle transparency. Flatten image. Yes, export. Quality, etc. Now, if we open that, open recent. As you can see, let's go side by side. Background, normal, other channels, and just red, green, blue channels. Red, green, blue, alpha, extra 1, extra something, and inverted blah 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 blah. So if you want to conserve that from the Gimp, you have to save as the Gimp, this one, as we did here, or PSD. Oh, PSD, Photoshop here. Those two types accept all the channels that we've been working for. Okay, that would be for today. Thank you. I hope you liked it.